Can you quit a labor union? Have you ever wondered if you can leave a labor union? It is a question that many workers face at some point in their careers. The good news is that yes, you can quit a labor union at any time. The process is fairly straightforward, and it usually involves sending a written letter to your union. This letter should clearly state that you are resigning your membership effective immediately. It is important to note that this right to resign is backed by legal precedent. Union members are not required to stay in a union against their will. However, some unions have specific rules about how and to whom you should submit your resignation letter. Therefore, it is wise to check your union's constitution or bylaws for any particular details. If you are unhappy with how your union uses your dues, especially for political activities, there is also a way to address that. You can submit an objection in writing to limit your dues for those specific purposes while still paying for collective bargaining and contract administration. This is often referred to as a Beck objection. For public employees, recent Supreme Court rulings have made it easier to opt out of union dues or fees. The Janus v. American Federation of State, County and Municipal Employees decision established that public sector employees cannot be forced to pay union fees without their consent. This ruling protects their First Amendment rights. Some partially public employees also have the option to choose whether to financially support a union. If you want to remove a union entirely or replace it with another, you can pursue a decertification election. This requires at least 30% of your coworkers to petition for an election. If a majority votes against the union, it will be decertified. Keep in mind that there are timing restrictions, such as waiting periods after certification or collective bargaining agreements. From a liberal perspective, labor unions have played a vital role in protecting workers' rights and improving labor conditions. However, individual freedom of association is also a core value. Liberalism supports the right of workers to join and leave unions voluntarily. This balance of personal choice and collective empowerment is essential. If you decide to quit your union, here are some practical steps to follow. First, write a clear resignation letter stating your intent to leave immediately. Next, send it to the appropriate union official as specified in the union's rules. If necessary, notify your employer about any changes in payroll deductions related to union dues. Lastly, consider submitting a Beck objection if you want to limit dues used for political activities. By following these steps, you can successfully navigate the process of quitting a labor union while understanding your rights within the framework of liberal ideology.